Hi, I'm Sally Gates, and today we're going to look at how to use this guitar scales cheat sheet from iVideosongs. So scales can be intimidating when you're new to the guitar, and a lot of people give up too soon. But don't give up, because we're going to help you break these down into bite-sized chunks, and we're also going to give you the tools to build them yourself using formulas, and we have on the back of this chart a cheat sheet to help you check your working as you move up and down the neck with these scales. So let's jump right in and look at how to read these. So if you look at the diagrams, you'll see these are designated by black and red dots. So the red dot is going to give you the root note of the scale, and then the black dots are all the other notes you need to play to create it. So for an example, if we look at a G minor pentatonic, we would start with the G on the 3rd fret of the E string, and we're going to work our way up, going with the diagram. So let's try a little faster now. Okay, great. So practice that a little bit by yourself. And a really great practice tip is using a metronome. So this will help you keep it even, consistent, and it'll also help you build up speed by slowly increasing by 5 or 10 BPM at a time. And you always want to make sure that you're playing this right, get it down before you move up in speed. Okay, so if we look at C major, for example, if you look at the column on the left, you're going to find the root note on the E string. And you'll notice that the red dot is actually the 2nd note in the scale, which means we're going to start on the B. So it's going to sound like this. So now if we play it a little bit faster, okay, great. So now if you practice that by yourself, again using a metronome, and build up speed until you can play it fluently and cleanly. Okay, so now if we look at the 2nd column where the root is on the 5th string, we can find C major by finding our C on the 3rd fret, and then building the scale like this. And again at speed. Okay, great. So now if we look down the page, you're going to encounter a couple of things called modes. So here we have the Dorian mode and the Lydian. So first start, let's talk a little bit about what a mode is. So modes are created from the major scale, which has 7 degrees, or 7 notes. So again, to use C major for an example, you would have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then it repeats again at C. So when we start the scale on C, it creates a pattern giving us a major scale. And if we were to start on a different note, for example D, it's going to sound a little bit different. Okay, so if we look at the first mode on this chart, which is Dorian, Dorian mode starts from the 2nd note of the major scale. So even though we're playing through a major scale, it's going to create more of a minor type of sound. So starting with the root on the 6th string, we can find D, and it will sound like this. Okay, so a little bit faster this time. So you can hear how the tonality is still in C, but it's creating more of a minor tone because of where we're starting this on the scale. So a song you might be familiar with that uses the Dorian mode is called So What by Miles Davis. So now you could listen to that song, take the scale, and practice improvising on top of it by using those notes. For example, okay, so now let's look at the next mode on this chart, which is Lydian. So Lydian is created by using the 5th note of the major scale. and it has a flat 7 or a minor 7. So this is a great tool to use if you're playing 12-bar blues or anything using your dominant 7th chord. This scale will work well over that and gives you a variation to just your typical pentatonics. So if we were to take, again, an example using C major with the root on the 6th string, it would sound like this. And again at speed. And now if you want to find that scale with the root on the 5th string, again we would find C, and now we can play up the scale. Okay, so another way to practice these is by sequencing, which is playing a few notes, stepping back one, and playing more. So for example, if we were to sequence 3 notes using a pentatonic scale with a G, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, back 1, 1, 2, 3. And this is a great way to get to really know the scale inside and out because you have to keep track of where you're going and where you've been. So practice that with a metronome as well and try building it up in speed as you go. So you can get quicker and it'll sound like this. And these are also nice little runs that you can put into your solos as you play around with these different scales. Okay, so now let's look at the back page of this chart. So at first glance, this can seem very intimidating. There's a lot going on here, but it's going to make it easier for you, I promise. So if you look at each scale, you'll see to the right of it, you have a formula. This is telling you which notes of the scale you're going to use to create this and whether they're sharp or flat. So for example, the minor pentatonic that we looked at only has 5 notes with a flat 3rd and a flat 7. And if we were to play it, so that's just in one position in the neck, but we need to learn how to move this around. So by using this chart, this will guide you as you go up the neck. So by finding the next root note with that red dot, we can figure out the next pattern to move upwards. So we have the G here, and we can create a pentatonic around that. So now we have 2 places we can play that scale, and this is giving us more flexibility, and we're learning the fretboard as we go. So try finding the next one yourself and check you're working with this sheet. Okay, so as we read down this chart, you'll see that we encounter a couple more modes. These are designated with the Roman numerals 4 and 7, so that's going to let you know which degree of the scale you're going to start these on. So if you had a major scale and you wanted to play the Lydian mode, you would know that that's going to start on the 4th note of the major scale. So again, to use C major for an example, you would start that at F, which is the 4th note, C, D, E, F. So taking that 4th note F, we can find that on the E string at the 13th fret. So this is a place where you might be if you're taking a solo. Most of the time you'll be up in the higher register. So it's good to learn these scales in all positions. So using the Lydian mode, it would sound like this. And you can see I'm playing this by choosing the red dot to give me my root note, and then I'm looking at the chart to figure out where else we're going to move to from there. And you can also use the guide to the right, again, which is giving you the formula, where you have a major scale and a sharp 4. So if you do get lost, you find your F, and then you know that you can play, for example, you find your F here, your 4th will be here, but you know it's going to be sharpened. So right away, you found your place again and you found the next note that you can move to. And then if you refer back to the chart, this will help you check your working and make sure you are playing in the right place for the scale. Okay, so we can also have a little bit of fun with this. Using pentatonics, if we looked at a minor pentatonic, we can take the 1st position and refer to the backside of this chart again to create fun exercises like tapping. So for example, if we look at the pentatonic row, that's going to give us our 1st position, and then looking up the fretboard, there are other notes that we can throw into this and have a little bit of fun with by creating tapping exercises. So going with the G minor pentatonic, we can make sounds like this. So you don't necessarily have to tap this out like I'm doing, but you can have a bit of fun and play around with this and come up with ideas for your solos. If you do want to try the tapping, start out with this basic pattern. So you have your G and the E as part of the scale. And then you have your B flat or A sharp. And then we can create a 6-note pattern. So again, slowly. Or even just very simple. So have a bit of fun with it, play around, really get to know these scales, and always practice with a metronome. It'll help you build consistency, clarity, and help you build up speed as well. So in conclusion, we've learned how to read this chart. We've looked at majors, minors, we've looked at different modes, pentatonics, and we've learned how to work our way up and down the neck. Thanks very much.